All right, the watch list for Friday, February 19th, showing you the SPY first. Again, I always try to just break it down to its simplest recent action, okay? So the SPY is pretty clearly in a range from down here to up here, right? And unless and until it gets out of that range, that's the range I'm going to play. It certainly looks like a lower high here. We had a red candle today, but a lot of times, I mean, this move right here, if you take today's candle out of it, this move, I don't know. The shorts were starting to get comfortable, and it was starting to see like we were, it felt like we were just going down and never going to bounce. You almost get that sick feeling that the market's never going to bounce. And then you get this massive 4-day pop. What that does is now shorts aren't sure and longs aren't sure. So there's really no, it's definitely a bearish market, but there's really no clear, hey, here's what's going to happen tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me to see a gap down and then have the thing run all the way and maybe test 194. It also wouldn't surprise me a gap down and come all the way down to here. So it's certainly some nice daily ranges, and it's certainly an anything can happen type of market. So I don't go into tomorrow with any kind of preconceived notions. I'll just trade it as it occurs, all right? So what I do is every night I put together a watch list. Hopefully we can catch some trades based on the watch list. Hopefully we'll catch some trades based on the morning gap playlist as well. So here's the watch list that I'm starting tomorrow with right now. Weight Watchers, this one kind of broke my heart today because I really liked it over 12. You can see, I've talked about this in recent videos, that Weight Watchers has had some nice moves lately, this WTW, right? And then today, it kind of, let's get this right here. It kind of like flagged below the early highs, but look what it did. I mean, it did this spike here, then almost rips back to lows of the day, right? Then does another nice spike here, and then back down, another spike, back down. Some people might say that's normal action, but it was weird if you watched it happen, because it was spikes on big volume, but then right back down. So then when it gets up to 12 recent highs, I'm a little bit spooked. It already feels extended to call a 12 break, and then here's what happened. It just ripped higher and closed at its highs all the way to 1262. I think I tweeted on StockTwits, that Weight Watchers is getting some unusual volume spikes, and the daily chart looks good over 12, but I hope not today, right? And then that's what it did. So, all right, having said all that, it's still interesting to me. There it is on 60-minute candles and the daily. So if you weren't trading today, this probably wouldn't even catch your attention, right? Because it's not that, it's kind of an unassuming chart here, but it's moving up nicely on volume today. So I want to watch this one for maybe a red to green tomorrow, or some kind of long setup. I think this one might continue. I think it's got earnings next week, all right? So that's Weight Watchers, TMST. To me, it's still in a flag. I liked it today over 8. It never got there. Sort of a decent bounce at the end of the day, but, today's high was like 789. I don't know. So I look at the daily, and I just call this still in this flag. If this gets up through 8 on volume, then you've got another catalyst of 832, and then maybe you break this other lower high of 863, and then retest this high. So I do like this flag pattern. I love the volume right here and the way it's holding up. So keep your eyes on TMST. AERI. Nice volume today. Nice gap up. Closed below its open though. Gave back more than I thought it would. It looked really strong here. This is another one that, let me switch to 2-minute candles just to give you an example. This is another one, I almost have to go to ones. The market's been kind of aggravating in that it's really tough to give a trigger and stop on something like this. I was watching it as a gap play. I certainly love it if it gets back through the open here. That might get through the high of the day and so on, but this is a 1-minute candle. So take this candle out of it, and you see most of these candles, I mean, a big range candle was 37 cents right here. Most of them were smaller than that. Then all of a sudden, in 1 minute, you get a candle that's like 72 cents, right? So if you don't see it as it's right about here, I don't mind grabbing something like this that I'm watching anyway, and I see volume coming in. I don't mind grabbing something like this in this area, but once you get up, by the time I saw it, remember, this all happened in 1 minute. I just couldn't get myself to chase it, and it ended up going up pretty nicely. So anyway, having said all that, I didn't take a trade in this one today, even though we had it on Gap Watch, and I don't really like the fact that it closed down below its open, but again, maybe a candidate for a red to green or something like that, okay? OCUL. Gapped up on big volume yesterday, closed below its open. Today, so far, holding above that $8 area again. And so this one, if it were to trade in a narrow range for the first 20 minutes or so and then break to the upside, it could get some short covering. Shorts love to jump on these lower price stocks, on news. And if they can't push this one down, the next logical direction is up. So I want to keep that one on watch. I'm pretty sure, and I'll check it right now as I'm babbling, pretty sure it's a fairly low float one. So when it does get going at 20 million in the float, it's pretty low float. So if it does get going, it could get some nice a nice move. SHOP gapped up on earnings and I think guidance yesterday, and then just 2 straight days down. So this isn't exactly bullish, but it might be ready for a bounce. You basically at a gap fill now. And there it is on 15. So again, if we get a narrow range for a while and an upside break, I like it as a bounce play. Or certainly if it comes back down and retests this recent low here, then it would be maybe a trade down near the low of the day around 1858 if it can get down to that area. Because after the gap up on increased earnings and guidance, if you get back down to here, that'd be a great spot to look for a bounce. So that one's interesting to me. VLTC had a massive pop yesterday. It went from a low of 366 to 540, but gave a lot of it back, and then today gave back more. So when you get in this area where something that a lower float stock has made almost a round trip, they become much less interesting to me. But when you look at the daily chart, this thing does have huge moves at times. This is a good example. This whole move was crazy. And so when we switch to 15-minute candles, we don't quite have a round trip, and we're starting to get some support in this $4 area. Okay, so if it can hold above 4, this one might catch a nice long trade. Might give us a nice long trade setup tomorrow. So I want to watch VLTC. I try to watch for things that are recent high relative volumes, because a lot of times you get a nice secondary move. So okay, now JUNO is actually on short watch here because it's up like 4 or 5 days in a row. This green line is the 60-day, which I use it for my 60 period moving average for my 5-minute candle chart. So, but the 50-day is why this is interesting to me, which isn't that far off from this. All right, so this is basically 4 or 5 days up in a row into the 50-day and a little bit of a topping tail. So potential short setup there for JUNO. Kind of the same thing here on WYNN, except it's 4 or 5 days up in a row into the 200-day. But this thing has moved from 56.51 to 79, so like what, $23 in 4 or 5 sessions, right? So that one, and with the 200-day there, this one might, especially if there's market weakness tomorrow, might be one to for a short trade. Remember, I'm a day trader. None of these are for overnight holds. I'm just looking for stuff to make me some money tomorrow. And then TRN closed at 21.12, and then after hours it's trading below 18. As I'm talking, it's trading at 17.82. This most recent low was 17.58. So that one could go either way. I want to watch it and see if around 17.5, if it gets there, I'll be looking for a bounce. If you get a failed bounce, it might be a better short. But because of the big gap down, I think it's worth watching. You know what? That's enough to watch because we're going to add gappers in the morning too. So I'm going to leave the list at that. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.